actual class of 2028 admissions statistics from Olin College. That is the topic of today's video. My name is Craig Meister. I'm a college admissions coach. You can learn more about me and how you can work with me one-on-one throughout the entire college admissions process on my website, which is collegemeister.com. And if you're interested in learning about whether or not you are or your student is on track for selective college admission in the United States of America, visit areyouontracktogetin.com. Again, that's areyouontracktogetin.com, at which you will complete a free 3-minute assessment. Your results will be emailed to you right away, and they will help you clarify whether or not you are or your student is on track for selective college admission in the United States of America. The Olin College of Engineering is located in Needham, Massachusetts. It's basically right next door to Babson College, which is known around the world as a very strong business school. And interestingly enough, if you are a student at the Olin College of Engineering, which is officially the Franklin W. Olin College of Engineering, you have the ability to also take courses at Babson, because they're right next door, but also Wellesley, as well as Brandeis. So there's some interesting curricular options available to you, though it's a very hyper-focused engineering school, as it sounds as it is in the name, Olin College of Engineering. It's also a relatively young school. It's only been around since about 2002. So the fact of the matter is it's pretty young. It's 22 years old, and it's small. So the Olin College of Engineering, basically, give or take, 100 students enter each year. So it's not in any way indicative necessarily of what is going on in the grander undergraduate admissions landscape, but it is an interesting tea leaf to get a sense of what may or may not be happening with the overall undergraduate admissions landscape, particularly related to the college class of 2028. These are the students who are graduating high school or who have graduated high school in 2024 and are about to matriculate into four-year colleges and universities. Well, very few undergraduate institutions have, in fact, released, as of this filming, their full-fledged admission statistics and matriculated class profile for their class of 2028. But Olin College of Engineering has shared with us a bit of data, and I think it's quite valuable to start reviewing, especially comparing it to its class of 2027 data, to get a sense of is anything changing notably or markedly in terms of the students a particular well-regarded undergraduate institution is matriculating. Is there a big change? Are there changes at all? We will take a look today, because Olin is a very transparent institution, and or at least about their admissions information. I'm not aware of other information related to Olin, but I am at least related to admissions, quite noting the fact that Olin is very transparent because they publish openly as of today, mid-July or early July, 2024. They have published the same data as last year as this year for their class, entering class. And this is important because some colleges are keeping very close to the vest, even in July, the profile for their entering classes. And I think that's quite curious. The admission season is over. Maybe there's a little movement on one or two wait lists, but basically at the most selective colleges and universities, it's over. So there's no reason why these colleges can't, at this point, even if they didn't collect the information on the front end, they could gather very quickly the information about the demographics of their entering first-year classes, the class of 2028, and then publish it if they wanted to. But many are dragging their feet. But Olin is not. So I want to make very clear, a lot of the videos that I do are a little bit cynical in nature, because there's a lot to be cynical about in the world of undergraduate admissions. But I today want to make very clear that I am celebrating the Olin College of Engineering for just being transparent. I think when people are empowered with knowledge, they can make the right decisions for themselves. And I always say, sunlight is the best disinfectant. So in last year's admission cycle, the 2022-2023 admission cycle, for those individuals who started college at Olin in 2023, we were shared by Olin the following information. 98 students matriculated into Olin. And the gender breakdown was 45% women, 49% men, and 4% self-identified as another gender. This could include gender queer, non-binary, agender, I guess, or other. Overall, 5% of students were transgender or another gender. The next bit of information that was shared for the class of 2027 at Olin was that 52% were students of color who were U.S. citizens or permanent residents only. Now, I'm assuming in that information, students of color is a term that even different institutions use differently. I'm assuming in that would be any individuals who are not identifying themselves as U.S. citizens or permanent residents, who are identifying themselves as U.S. citizens or permanent residents, but who are not white. So that would be inclusive of Asian Americans, Black Americans, Hispanic or Latino Americans, and American Indians, or also known as Native Americans. So 52% in the class of 2027 at Olin, who were U.S. citizens or permanent residents, were students of color. 16% were deemed to be underrepresented students of color. This is what I'm assuming is the differentiation point there. I'm assuming that is taking out the Asian American student population. So it goes down to 16% when you look at probably what are considered Black, Hispanic, and Native American U.S. citizens and permanent residents. 12% were first-generation college students. 14% were Pell eligible for Pell grants. That means economically needy individuals. And 12% were international students. 27 U.S. states were represented, the top 5 being California, Massachusetts, New York, Texas, and Washington. And countries represented, of course, included a diversity, including Canada, South Korea, Chile, India, Jamaica, Mexico, Nigeria, Turkey, and Vietnam. Profile, which is also very transparent for them to have shared last year, 54% of applicants submitted test scores. And among those submitting test scores, the middle 50% were 1490 to 1540 on the SAT, 34 to 35 on the ACT. And I won't even report the GPA because the GPAs are inflated everywhere on earth now, but especially in the United States, public and private schools. And then activities that those individuals participated in high school before coming to Olin, 79% participated in community service, 28% in internships of some shape or form, student government, 17%, visual arts, 12%. They're basically showing here that a diversity of students are, in terms of student behaviors and interests and preferences, are joining the Olin community, which is lovely. That's lovely to know. So let's compare that to what has been recently published, which is the class of 2028 at Olin. I mean, this is interesting to me. I mean, this may not be interesting to you at all, but it's interesting to me because this is the first class accepted in a post-affirmative action world. And so there's been a lot of buzz in the commentariat, if you will, about what this will mean. Like, will the numbers of certain demographics go up dramatically, down dramatically? Will they stay the same? Again, this is our first look. Again, even though it's a very small institution, it could be a canary in the coal mine. It may not be. But Olin, again, I'm very proud of them, and I want to praise them like I should for the fact that they are being transparent in the month of July about their class of 2028, which is matriculating later this summer. They have 118 students in the class of 2028 committed to attending. Again, last year at this time, they had 98 students. So Olin is doing something right from year to year, at least year on year. Now look at this. The numbers of women are now 35%. The percentage of men, 58%. That's a big change from one year to the next. Remember, last year, 45% were women, 49% were men. Now it's 35% women, 58% men. Now remember, with the smallness of their class, I can assume that the fluctuations may be more dramatic at a school like Olin that has such a small number. A few changes here and there can make a big difference in terms of who got in versus who deposited. So I don't know if there's much to be made at any of this, but again, I'm just sharing with you because I think it isn't edifying. Also notable this year, again, is about 4% of those individuals who are matriculating are another gender, queer, non-binary, agender. The legal sex, which is being reported this year, which was not reported last year, is 40% women, 60% men. That actually tracks with traditionally, engineering schools in many ways. Traditionally, of course, obviously in recent years, institutions in the United States have tried to become more even in terms of the numbers of men and women. Traditionally, men have been represented quite well in engineering schools and or more interested in pursuing engineering. Things have changed, obviously, with engineering and STEM being promoted so heavily in K through 12 education, and the world of work, obviously, potentially being much more interested in STEM graduates as well. So more and more individuals are interested in STEM-related fields. But even so, we still have an imbalance there, obviously, men to women. 60% men legal sex, 40% women legal sex in Olin's class of 2028. Now, this is interesting. 42% are students of color who are, again, U.S. citizens and permanent residents only. So this is interesting because this compares last year to 52% of students being students of color. So again, it's a small sample, so a few changes can make a big difference, as you can imagine. So I don't know if this means anything in the grander scheme of things, but that's down 10% from last year. 15% are deemed to be underrepresented students of color. Last year, it was just 1% down. So that's not big change at all. Last year was 16% underrepresented students of color. So I would make the argument looking at these 2 years that Black and Hispanic Americans, and obviously to some extent Native Americans, though I don't know what percentage of the underrepresented students of color on campus are deemed to be Native American versus Latino American versus Black American, but 1 percentage point change does not feel as though there's been an earth-shattering change in the way in which students are considered, and affirmative action, or the lack thereof, doesn't seem to have made any change, especially in the event they're reading essays to learn more about students and how they would contribute at Olin. And so nothing really has changed as it relates to the underrepresented students of color. 15% this year versus 16% last year. That's not a change. That's a statistical blip. This year, we have 11% who are first-generation college students. Last year, we had 12%. Last year, we had 14% who were Pell eligible. This year, we have 25% who are Pell eligible. So that's actually shot up. And 7% are international students this year. Last year, 12% were. So the international student numbers have gone down. But again, in such a small sample, 5 or 6 kids changing, 6 or 7 kids changing can be a huge change, right? Because last year they accepted 98 students matriculated or were included in their profile. This year, only 108, up to 118 are. So that's a big change right there. And then in terms of where they're coming from, again, 27 U.S. states are represented, like last year. Top 5 states looks to be the same as last year: California, Massachusetts, New York, Washington, and Texas. Last year, I think Texas and Washington swapped places. And countries represented this year include Brazil, Bulgaria. Good for Bulgaria. Small and mighty. China, India, and Spain. So a slightly different mix of international students. And in terms of those who are reporting test scores, this year actually even fewer did. 59% of admitted students, more did. 59% of admitted students submitted test scores. Last year, 54% of applicants submitted test scores, so it actually went up. And the averages are basically very similar. This year, the averages are 1483 to 1528. The middle 50%, the ACT on the SAT, the ACT again 34 to 35, and the activities participated in are diverse. diverse responsibilities of all types. They include family responsibilities this year too, which is lovely because there are a lot of students who have a lot of responsibilities to their family, whether taking care of siblings, buying groceries, taking care of older relatives. So this year, 7% of the individuals applying indicated that they have family responsibilities as extracurricular activities, and some other involved LGBT, 6%, 53% had part-time work. I don't see the internship option this year. Maybe they're just classifying it differently than last year. But in any case, what we take from this, I don't know what we take from this other than it's interesting. I think it is interesting. Look, Olin College of Engineering, I do recommend. I think it's worth researching, especially if you're looking at schools like Caltech, Harvey Mudd, MIT, other small personalized engineering programs that are very strong in the programs area, programmatic areas that Olin is strong in. I mean, Olin is an elite institution, project-based. It's obviously in a very educated part of the country in terms of other high-end institutions, a hop, skip, and a jump away. So this is not an advertisement for Olin College of Engineering, but I want to again praise them for publishing in July this information. The same basic statistics are being released one year after the other. There's not like a bait and switch where they're changing definitions, as far as I know, from year to year. Just as they reported last year, they're reporting again this year. And it's a small class, but it could be indicative of different changes. And what we generally see at this engineering school is that the number of women went down, notably. The number of minorities, or I'm sorry, what are deemed to be, students of color, that number did go down overall, but the underrepresented students of color basically is steady. So no real change here because of the lack of affirmative action in undergraduate admissions. I will continue to share interesting data points data in the plural, as we learn them over the coming weeks and months about the class of 2028. Many people are eager to learn. Obviously, there are bigger name schools that people may be interested to learn about, obviously, especially the ones that were actually involved in the cases in front of the Supreme Court, most notably the public institution of University of North Carolina, Chapel Hill, as well as Harvard University, which were both in front of the Supreme Court when the Supreme Court did ultimately rule that the consideration of race in college admission is not appropriate in the United States of America. We will see how, if at all, that plays out in terms of changing the complexions of, or the demographics of, and the compositions of the first-year classes at different institutions as we learn more. And I hope we learn more soon, but I do suspect that more and more colleges are going to wait to the last possible minute to release this information, which would be around usually September, which is when they usually report their census data for any given year at an institution. So we may be waiting till September on some of the bigger name schools, both publics and privates, to learn. But good job, Olin, for sharing with us this information. And I'm happy you grew a little bit from the class of 2027 to the class of 2028. Now, if you are interested in learning more about Olin, you can, of course, go to their website, which is olin.edu. I will include the data, the 2 pages worth of data referred to in this video as links in my video description. If you're interested in learning about whether or not your application to the Olin College of Engineering is going to give you the very best shot of earning admission into Olin, I recommend that you seriously consider engaging in something that I'm offering new during the 2024-2025 admission cycle. And this new thing is called My Pre-Read. To learn more about it, you can go to mypreread.com. But what is My Pre-Read, you ask? Well, I'm so happy you did. Let's say you finished your Common App and you now want to know if it's as strong as possible and whether or not, in its current condition, your chances of admission are impressive, inconclusive, or inadequate. Getting My Pre-Read now means having me review your entire application, just like an admissions officer or an admissions committee will review it later at Olin or another school. Let's say you're interested in learning about whether your application is in good shape for, and you're going to receive an email from me no later than the time you reserve at mypreread.com. And it's going to include a comprehensive report highlighting what is working and what is not working on your Common App and one Common App supplement. If you've yet to submit your Common App, my pre-read may motivate you to make adjustments to it before your deadline. If you've already submitted your Common App, my pre-read will prepare you for what I deem to be your likely admissions outcome at the institution in question. And in that case, it's sort of just a fun little bit of infotainment, informational and entertaining to find out what yours truly thinks are your chances. I'm not going to give a percentage, but I am going to sort of give you, again, a comprehensive report about what I think is working on your app, what I think could be improved potentially on your app. And I think it will be quite informational for you. And again, like I said, potentially entertaining. So if you're interested in that service, whether you've already submitted or whether you've yet to hit submit, you should go to mypreread.com. If you enjoyed today's video, please give it a thumbs up and consider subscribing to my channel. If you'd like to work with me one-on-one throughout the entire college admissions process, go to my website, which is collegemeister.com. Until next time, stay safe, stay well, and most importantly, stay stress-free throughout the entire college admissions process.